Hey guys, tonight we're slipping into the sandals of Alexandria's most underrated heroes, the scroll-wrangling librarians who fought mold with moonlight and beetles with bare hands. Close your eyes and picture this: oil lamps flickering in a pre-dawn hush, your bare feet on cold stone, the weight of entire civilizations balanced on your dust-coated fingertips. Before we dive in real talk, you'd last 3 minutes here before accidentally vaporizing Socrates, lost play, or getting devoured by paper-eating moths. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop a comment with your location and local time. Let's see how far these whispers of ancient parchment travel. Now dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. You strike flint against steel, sparks kissing lamp, wicks one by one. Amber light pools around your workstation, a rickety table polished smooth by centuries of anxious elbows. The air smells like burnt olive oil and yesterday's crushed lavender, supposed to repel silverfish, but mostly just gives you headaches. Across the hall, 3 dozen librarians move in practiced silence, linen sachets of cedar shavings tied to their belts like wartime grenades. Your first scroll today, a shipping manifest from Rhodes boring, till you spot Cleopatra's personal seal wedged between entries for olive jars and parrot feathers. Historians still argue whether the last pharaoh actually read these documents or just enjoyed stamping her name on things. You unroll the papyrus sideways. Never risk the spine's brittle glue. Scholars confirm this place housed 500,000 scrolls. The rumor says the real number's closer to 700,000. Dust motes swirl like lazy stardust above the lamplight. One lands on your eyelash, blinking it away. You fumble the scroll clamp, its bronze teeth nearly taking a chunk from Plato's Symposium. 3 desks down, someone coughs, the sound ricocheting off vaulted ceilings like a thrown dagger. You freeze, praying yesterday's offender isn't back for round 2. Morning ritual demands checking every shelf for nocturnal invaders. Your reed broom glides under racks, sweeping up carcasses of book lice and betrayal. Last week, apprentice Nephrit tried smuggling in honeyed figs. The resulting ant parade almost reached Aristotle's ethics treatise. Rumor says Cleopatra once gifted the library a scroll coated in crushed emeralds, meant to dazzle readers, but mostly just blinded them. You've never found it, though your cracked magnifying glass reveals something stranger today. Between cargo lists for Egyptian cotton lies a hastily scrawled note. Avoid the blue figs, they're ripe with lies. Eyelids twitching, you file it under unsolved mysteries and reach for the census records. Breath hitches as you lift a codex on Babylonian astronomy, its papyrus flaking like dried skin. Preservation protocol demands a humidity bath, but the water clock shows you've got 93 minutes till sunpeak damages the ink. Modern scholars obsess over Alexandria's famous burnings. Meanwhile, you're fighting a micro-war against rogue snail mucus, degrading Homer's battle scenes. Someone bumps your chair, the offending sandals scuffing Ptolemy's Mediterranean map. Your glare meets Camos's apologetic shrug, his hands full with a leaking inkwell shaped like Bess, the dwarf god of laughter. Forbidden to speak, he pantomimes spilling it on his tunic. You respond with the universal sign for clean it up or get fed to the crocodiles. Index finger dragging across throat. 3 lamps need refilling, oil levels sinking faster than Antony's reputation after Actium. The storeroom key sticks, as always, its iron teeth worn down by 14 generations of librarians. Inside, amphorae loom like silent judges, each labeled in a dead administrator's handwriting. A mouse scuttles behind jars marked Rhodes 21 BCE, probably building a nest from Sophocles. Lost satyr play. Back at your desk, dawn's first light creeps through high windows, a golden blade slicing through dust-clouded air. You shift scrolls from east-facing shelves like some paranoid sundial. Rush hours coming. Soon scholars will swarm like locusts, demanding Euclid's geometry proofs and recipes for Cretan snail tonics. Final task. Seal today's repaired scrolls with wax. Your thumbnail digs into a lump of Ethiopian beeswax, still warm from sitting in your belt pouch. The smell triggers memories of childhood visits to the market, where parchment sellers peddled mummy wrappings, recycled into cheap notebooks. Archaeologists recently proved some were fakes. Goat hide stained with pomegranate juice. As the water clock drips its final warning, you stash your tools, obsidian blade wrapped in silk, gum Arabic jar stoppered tight. One lamp still flickers defiantly, its smoky breath lingering like Plato's ghost. You blow it out, savoring the bitter tang of extinguished wick, and try not to wonder which scrolls tomorrow's humidity might claim. Morning's lamp smoke still hangs bitter as your shift changes. 23 steps west to the task board. Wax tablets click under practiced thumbs. Day assignments carved in cursive Greek. Tonight's hieroglyph. A crescent moon cradling an open eye. You smirk, symbolic overkill for pest patrols. Teams split like the Nile's delta here. Day shift catalogers sweat over incoming shipments. Night owls stalk silverfish with reed torches. Historians still argue whether these nocturnal posts were punishments or honors, though beetle-killing beats deciphering Cicero's tax receipts at dawn. You rotate roles every 7 days to day's duty. Flaxen thread and a palm-sized needle curved like a scorpion's tail. Threading requires 3 steady breaths, Alexandria's secret. Lick the fiber before inserting. Saliva-stiffened linen pierces papyrus smoother than wine through a drunkard's gullet. Across the hall, new recruits mislabeled tragedy scrolls, their giggles silenced when a shelf collapses. You stifle a laugh, remembering your own apprentice days, mixing up Hippocrates' prescriptions and comedy scripts. Mainstream fact time. Ptolemy III once demanded all ship scrolls be copied, keeping originals here, sending back forgeries. Nautical charts became the library's dirty secret. Your current project, patching a water-damaged map, showing Phoenician trade winds, its beetle-chewed edges, whispering of Mediterranean storms. Quirky alert. Night watchmen supposedly hummed lullabies to calm parchment. Ridiculous. Until you tried it yourself, humming Pythagoras. Theorem in B-flat does deter moths. Science hasn't caught up yet. Daylight fades as you sew, each stitch sinking with the water clock's drip. Someone's burning citronella, too strong your nose wrinkles at the citrus assault. Across the aisle, a debate flares about repairing wine-stained scrolls. Leave Aristotle's mildew. Argues old Menes, his breath smelling suspiciously of date wine. You tune them out, focusing on aligning frayed papyrus layers, like reassembling a pharaoh's shattered vase. 28 scrolls, mended fingers raw from flaxen thread, when the night gong shakes dust from ceiling beams. Silverfish hunters arrive clicking beetle shell lanterns, their tools dangling like assassin's kits. You trade places wordlessly, passing your needle to a yawning colleague. Historians adore our catalog systems, but the real genius, this seamless baton pass between sun worshippers and shadow walkers. 2 hours into moth patrol, you spot it, a telltale gap in Euripides' shelf. Heart hammers as you slide the scroll free, moonlight revealing jagged bite marks. Victory tastes sour as you tweeze out 3 larvae, their translucent bodies squirming in the oil dish. Tomorrow's problem. Explaining this breach to the day crew. Tonight's triumph. Saving Medea's final monologue from becoming insect compost. Dawn licks the harbor when shifts blur. Catalogers arrive rubbing sleep from their eyes. You linger to watch sunrise. Ignite the lighthouse's mirror. A recruit offers barley cake, still warm from the oven. Bite into it, and suddenly you're both laughing at nothing, the sugar and sleep deprivation mixing into a dangerous cocktail. Menes glares, but his stolen wink says everything. Another rotation survived, another week, till your turn with the silverfish nets. The library breathes around you, papyrus sighing, ink drying, history refusing to be buried. Morning light slices through smoke haze. Your shadow falls across Euripides' shelf like a sentinel. Fingertips trace papyrus edges, each scroll's skin thinner than onion membrane. Historians adore our catalog systems, but dawn reveals the real battlefield. Every crevice hides wartime generals, beetle mandibles, sharper than Macedonian spears. You freeze, that faint rasping like sand in a crank's gears. A hiss escapes your teeth, night shift, mist, an infiltrator. Dawn's glare creeps upward, exposing a trail of pepperfine droppings. Mainstream fact incoming. Ptolemaic scribes drenched shelves in cedar oil, turns out beetles hate spa smells. Your weapon, a reed quill dipped in honey garlic paste, library approved neurotoxin. Crouching low, sandals squeak against limestone. The offender reveals itself, carapace gleaming like polished obsidian. Quilltip hovers steady as a falcon mid-dive. Strike too slow. The bastard darts into Hesiod's cosmology. You curse, voice softer than papyrus fibers. Scholars still debate whether librarians used crushed scarab beetles as poison. Jury's out, but you'd rather not test it today. Quirky tidbit. Sacred temple cats proved useless. Geckos did the real pest control. Light shifts. Suddenly the scroll before you blooms with holes. A constellation of destruction, each puncture erasing star charts. Morning's triumph curdles, fingers pluck larvae, their squish muted by reed wraps. Historians love debating scroll storage, but never mention the crunching sounds. Reality check. This patrol involves 90% paranoia, 10% tweezers. You mimic Menie's trick, humming Orpheus' dirge to calm jittery hands. Across the nave, a recruit shrieks, dropping Sappho's poetry into a dust pile. Their panic fuels your smirk until another rustle answers from Aristotle's Ethics. Sun climbs higher, your oil lamp's twin flickers on the horizon. Shift ends when the lighthouse mirror catches fire, glass magnifying dawn into a weapon. You count casualties. 17 larvae, 2 beetles, 1 pride. The open debate. Whether we ever truly win this war. Victory smells like vinegar wash and shattered beetle wings. You seal the scroll, its battle wounds stitched with smugness. Somewhere, a scholar will weep over missing footnotes. You shrug, dusting termite shrapnel from your tunic. The library's heartbeat quickens. Another day, another million jaws gnawing at eternity's edges. Dusk arrives, your hands sticky with honey and regret. The real work begins now, spinning treachery from linen strips. You dunk cloth into copper vats, syrup so thick it drips like molten amber. Mainstream fact incoming. Alexandrian grain stores relied on fig glue traps. Ours smell sweeter. Each dangling strip becomes a gallows, translucent with viscous promise. You hang them between Aristotle and Aristophanes, philosophy and comedy united against chaos. Quirky tidbit. An obscure papyrus fragment suggests gecko urine-enhanced stickiness. Your nose prays, that's metaphorical. Moonlight transforms the library shelves, now glistening webs. You listen, hoping for the faint snap of mandibles meeting doom. First victim, a moth with Aristotle's face on its wings. Poetic, if you believed in omens. Midnight check reveals progress. 3 larvae stuck like raisins in cake. You resist poking them, temptation battles professionalism. Scholars still debate whether these traps killed quickly or let victims starve midair as warnings. Your sandal crunches something, a beetle's carcass, half covered in wax. Evidence someone else's shift was messier. You pocket it, weaponizing guilt for tomorrow's apprentice lecture. The worst part, resisting metaphors, sticky fate, trapped knowledge, the library as a flytrap for ambitions. You shake your head, focusing on inventory instead. 17 fresh traps baited, 98 holes patched, 3 scrolls quarantined. A thud echoes, someone dropped Sophocles again. You grin, grateful for clumsy coworkers lowering the bar. Your lamp gutters, revealing a fresh hole in Euripides' tragedies. The war continues, eternal as bad theater. Hour 3 brings hallucinations. Linen strips seem to shiver like hanged ghosts. You nibble honey-stained dates, breakfast and punishment combined. 4 more larvae join the collection, their tiny legs cycling air. Dawn creeps in, traps now speckled with insect confetti. You tally casualties, 22, a good harvest. But victory feels hollow, like winning a foot race against snails. Final duty, scraping hardened syrup with an ivory blade. Tomorrow's problem, today's residue clogs the grooves. Historians love debating library ethics. None mention the beetle innards under our fingernails. Shift ends when lighthouse beams scatter through high windows. You exit backward, watching traps sway in your lamplight's wake. Somewhere, a moth escapes. Somewhere else, a scholar's footnote crumbles. The scales never balance, not even in Alexandria. Moonlight threads through smoke-stained windows, oil-slick shadows pooling around your workstation. You crush cedar bark with a mortar heavy as regret, each crackle releasing sharp ghosts of forgotten forests. 3 clay pots stand ready, their bellies hungry for protection. Night blooming myrrh resin dissolves in wine vinegar, a trick stolen from Memphis embalmers. Mainstream fact slides in unnoticed. Alexandria's tax records show 20 mule loads of cedar oil arriving monthly, none for perfume, all for scrolls. The pestle slips, sending resin chunks skittering like scared beetles. You curse in 3 languages, grateful the sacred texts don't record librarians' vocabulary. Quirky tidbit time. A charred temple scroll claims priestesses sang harmonies while mixing said to align the oils with celestial wrath. You hum off-key, justice through bad music. Drops of galbanum gum thicken the brew, its stench punching through cedar's crispness. Your eyes water caught between a forest and a funeral pyre. Historians still argue whether these mixtures repelled bugs or just made manuscripts taste terrible. You sighed with spite, watching a moth recoil mid-flight. Pre-dawn cold stiffens your fingers, stirring becomes a battle. The concoction taunts you, swirling into patterns like mocking hieroglyphs. 1 pot bubbles ominously, smoke tendrils spelling what looks like idiot in Coptic. You blame sleep deprivation and the myrrh. Linen filters catch resin globs, leaving liquid gold in ceramic bowls. Your hands emerge stained, permanent gloves of grudging triumph. Bonus discovery: cedar oil removes ink stains. Too bad it also removes skin. A cock crows, 3 pots ready for sealing. You label them with exaggerated care. Do not drink unless moth. Sunrise gilds the jars, their contents shimmering like trapped daylight. Somewhere a scholar sneezes from distant vapors. Somewhere else, A silverfish hesitates. You count that as victory. Dawn's first warmth tickles your soles, bare toes splayed against marble chilled by night. Sandals dangle from one hand, their leather straps fraying from yesterday's escape from a rogue scroll cart. You face the cedar box labeled Eta Rho Omicron Delta Omicron Tau Omicron Sigma. Its Greek letters worn thin by centuries of nervous thumbs. Cotton gloves wait on the shelf, rejected. Skin reads texture better, every crackle and brittleness a whispered warning. The table's edge digs into your hips, body arched like a bowstring to avoid shadowing the text. Mainstream fact time. Herodotus. Original scrolls reached Alexandria via royal couriers, packed in olive oil-soaked linen to survive Mediterranean storms. Salt crystals still glitter in the fibers, crumbling between your fingers like ancient sea spray. You exhale, lowering the first papyrus layer slower than sunset. A hairline tear zigzags through Aristotle's margin notes, his commentary on Egyptian customs now a battlefield. Quirky tidbit alert. Some librarians chewed licorice root while working, believing sweetened breath soothed fragile inks. You tried it once. Spit stains nearly erased Sophocles' climax. Never again. Left palm presses the unscrolling rod, right pinky hooked under the edge like a question mark. The papyrus resists, its fibers sighing after centuries curled inward. Historians still argue whether these rituals preserved texts or slowly murdered them through handling. Your shoulders ache in agreement. A bead of sweat snakes down your temple weights, trembling above the word Lydian. One deep breath, the desert wind outside sinking with your lungs. Scrolls demand meteorological awareness. Too dry, they splinter. Too damp, they bloom murderous mold. You've seen Euripides reduced to fuzzy green confetti, still mourn that tragedy. 3 inches revealed, Herodotus describes Babylon's walls. Your big toe cramps, stones chill now a dull burn. The drop rule flashes through your mind. 1 errant drip of forehead sweat equals 40 papyrus surgery hours. Used a headband once, it slipped, almost beheading Plato's cave allegory. Sunlight crests the window ledge. You shuffle sideways, blocking its invasive glare with your body. Papyrus fades faster than a politician's promise. The reason librarians develop a permanent sideways lean. Your spine pops, a crack louder than the Alexandria lighthouse's dinner gong. Halfway now, the scroll's center ridge looms like a parchment Himalayas. Here lies the danger zone, where overeager hands split priceless chronicles into useless halves. You hum a Phoenician sailing hymn, supposedly calms both mariners and manuscript nerves. The historian interrupts mid-chorus, his account of Egyptian funeral barges clashing with your off-key melody. A child laughs in the courtyard, your left foot jerks, heel slipping on dew-slick stone. A half-scream strangles in your throat, elbows splay to shield the scroll from airborne demise. Crisis averted, Herodotus remains intact. 3 decades of life, nearly ended by wet marble and a toddler's giggle. Final furl, the colophon emerges, copied by Isidora, year 22 of Ptolemy's reign. You trace her fingerprint in the margin, a scribe's accidental immortality. Storage protocol demands immediate re-rolling, but you break rules for dead colleagues. Let her breathe a moment. Let the dawn meet her ink one last time. The re-rolling begins tighter than a crocodile's grin, looser than a drunk philosopher's logic. Muscle memory takes over, hands rolling, feet pivoting, breath hitching at every ominous crackle. Done. Silk ties cinch the scroll, their knots patterned after Isidora's own signature braids. Sandals slap stone again, toes protesting their return to captivity. Some fool left a lyre in the doorway. You kick it, elegantly, into a date palm. The twang harmonizes with distant hymn singers, Alexandria's daily soundtrack. Lunch beckons, olives, flatbread, and the smug satisfaction of outsmarting entropy for another morning. Your lunchtime olives linger salt and regret as you face the afternoon's true trial. Shelving duty. The cart looms, 13 new scrolls glowering like misbehaving students. Each demands classification under the sacred 3. Red for lands, silver for stars, green for suffering bodies. You lift the first candidate, its brittle edges snagging your tunic. Mainstream fact creeps in. Aristotle himself designed this system, or so scholars claim. Reality's less glamorous. Some sleep-deprived librarian likely invented it during a caffeine-fueled ptolemaic all-nighter. The tag dangles, dyed crimson with crushed carmine beetles. Geography. Always geography. A sniff test confirms it. Sun-baked papyrus reeks of Nile mud and ambition. Unroll an inch descriptions of Babylonian canals, written in thick, clumsy Greek. Your nose wrinkles. Royal surveyor, my left foot. This stinks of a third-rate merchant's diary. Red tag it is. Next scroll feels suspiciously light. Silver threads wink in its seal, astronomy's telltale mark. But unroll it and, surprise, Hippocrates ranting about spleen humors. Green tag material hijacked by star chasers again. You curse the night shift crew. Their moon-addled brains mix up classifications like drunk scribes. Quirky tidbit time. Rumor says shelf 12 tilts slightly, causing scrolls to slide toward tragedy sections annually. You check it monthly straight as Atlas spine. Still, Euripides ended up beside agricultural manuals last summer. Coincidence? The head librarian thinks so, but you keep a hidden wedge under Sophocles. Third, scrolls a nightmare Sanskrit glyphs swimming beneath a Greek transliteration. Your thumbnail traces a glyph shaped like a pregnant goat. Historians still argue whether Indus Valley maps reached Alexandria, or if scribes just drew fantasies. Either way, red tag with a charcoal question mark. Let scholars fight over it tomorrow. Your sandal kicks, something wooden, the dreaded step stool. Its rungs creak louder than Hades' hinges. Up you climb, fingers brushing the restricted shelf. A silver-tagged scroll peeks out, star charts smudged with what looks like wine. Drunk astronomers strike again. Mid-reach, a spider descends on silk thread. You freeze, enemies of Papyrus unite. It's not the 8 legs you hate, but their habit of spinning surprise annotations across sacred texts. A puff of breath sends it fleeing, your version of mercy. Scroll 4 smells like camphor and desperation. Unfurling reveals a love poem to a goat. Green tag, mental illness counts as medicine. Probably. You hesitate, what if it's metaphor? Too late, the cart's judgment is final. A commotion erupts below, 2 apprentices debating Ptolemy's birthplace. Their voices hit sacred scrolls like hammers. You hiss through teeth, the universal librarian shush. They scatter, leaving a lone fig rolling across tiles. Lunch theft remains the library's oldest crime. 5th, scrolls seal screams, royal decree, usually code for boring tax records. But surprise, Cleopatra's handwriting loops beneath wax. A request for scrolls on venomous snakes, green or red. Venoms heal or kill, ethics blur. You tag it crimson, let her physicians argue taxonomy. Muscle memory kicks in red tags to the east wall, silver north, green due west. Your path weaves through shelves like Theseus in the labyrinth. If Theseus carried wax tablets and a permanent eye twitch, scroll 6 unravels halfway, mouse-nibbled corners mocking your repairs. Pythagoras, theorem interrupted by recipes for lentil stew. Some philosopher's idea of a joke. Silver tag, math, is astronomy's ugly cousin anyway. The fig thief returns, slyly offering half as peace offering. You accept, hunger triumphs over pride. Sticky fingers now, time to handle vellum with elbow nudges. Why must sin always complicate conservation? 7th scroll resists its papyrus layers welded by time. Heat treatment could help or reduce it to ash. You whisper Marcus Aurelius quotes until it relaxes. Stoicism works on paper soles too. The contents: maps of Atlantis, red tag with a seashell tucked in for flair. Sunset stains the shelves amber, scrolls exhale as light retreats. Your cart stands empty, mission accomplished. 13 orphans adopted into Alexandria's paper labyrinth. Your reward, ink-stained cuticles, and the soft hiss of oil lamps waking for night shift. A gecko licks yesterday's honey trap, its tongue snapping up carcasses of fallen warriors. You salute the tiny ally, library custodians come in all species. One final check, red tags aligned. Silver scrolls dormant, green texts murmuring fever cures. Your sandals slap toward the exit until a muffled thump stops you. Shelf 12s, which lies on the floor, and Aeschylus tragedies are sliding toward agricultural manuals again. The moon watches through high windows as you hammer the wedge back, harder than necessary. Some mysteries demand brute force over intellect. Let the historians debate till dawn. You've got a date with a laundry basin and yesterday's ink-stained robe. City sounds drift in a lute's lament, a fishmonger's closing time pitch. You breathe papyrus dust and impending rain, the library's perfume. Hands numb, spine screaming, you turn toward home. Tomorrow's crisis already waits, 7 Phoenician, trade manifests, and a suspected termite infestation. But tonight belongs to soap and stolen sleep. Your fingertips meet the reed brush's spine, its feathered end whispering against centuries of grime. Today's patient, a papyrus scroll so dust-caked its jokes have suffocated. You blow gently, a storm of gray particles swirls, revealing faded Greek letters gasping for air. Morning light slants through high windows, your enemy and ally. Too bright ink fades, too dim dust hides. Today's compromise, 2 oil lamps and a linen sun filter stolen from the weaving room. The playwright's name peeks through Menander. Historians hoard his surviving works like gold, which makes this moldy relic worth 10 senators' ransoms. First stroke, the brush glides left, lifting silt from Nile floods past. Second stroke right, unearthing a punchline about a runaway donkey. Your laugh startles a gecko off the desk. Sorry, little guardian, didn't mean to crush your dramatic tension. Mainstream fact sneaks in. Alexandria's reed brushes came from size, stems harvested at dawn for maximum flexibility. You eye your tool, some intern clearly skimped on quality. This one sheds bristles like a molting sparrow. Dilemma strikes at line 12, a dust clot fused to ink. Press too hard, the punchline vanishes. Too soft, the joke stays buried. You mimic a flute player's breath, shallow puffs, loosening the crust. Success. The freed words smirk up at you. And then the hetera dumped the chamber pot on his. Quirky tidbit surfaces. Some scrolls hid cheeky doodles. Centurions with comically large noses. Philosophers mid-sneeze. Your current suspect. A tiny satyr drawn in this margin. It's a hum. Enthusiasm. Symbolically erased by prudish monks centuries later. Sweat trickles down your neck. Summer's heat cooks the air like a kiln. You eye the borrowed ostrich plume fan across the room, too far to reach without disrupting workflow. Compromise. Use the Menander scroll as a makeshift breezemaker. 2 flaps dust, storms swirl, 3 scholars sneeze in unison somewhere. Whoops. A shadow looms, head librarian Amasis checking progress. His sigh could deflate Aristotle. Prioritize Euclid's geometry texts next. You nod, knowing full well you'll accidentally misplace that order. Poetry before polygons, every decent librarian's secret creed. Noon sun reveals the scroll's hidden shame, a wine stain obscuring Act 3's climax. Historians still argue whether symposia fueled classical comedy or just ruined archives. You channel Hippocrates, applying honey water with a linen swab. Sweetness versus fermented grapes, the oldest battle. Brush handle splinters, another casualty of Rome's cheap outsourcing. You perform emergency surgery, wrapping it with papyrus scraps and beeswax. Good as new, or at least functional. Menander's donkey joke deserved better than amateur tools. Unexpected twist. Cleaning reveals a palimpsest, older text lurking beneath the comedy. Your pulse quickens. Is that a Spartan recipe for barley soup? Irony's dagger strikes, Athenian wit layered over warrior cuisine. You double tag the scroll red for Sparta's geography, green for their terrible seasoning advice. Insect allies arrive. A beetle army marches across your desk. Not pests, your trained cleaning brigade. They devour debris while avoiding ink, nature's tiny archivists. You reward them with crumb trails, dark bread for dark deeds. Disaster strikes. Sneak cough dislodges a crucial papyrus fiber. The scroll's edge unravels like a desperate lover's tunic. Quick, press it flat with a Babylonian math tablet, weights and measures, saving theatrical measure. Sunset approaches. The cleaned scroll glows soft as a memoirist's lie. Final test. Read aloud to the Aristotle bust near the door. His stone ears endure the donkey punchline without cracking. High praise. You roll the resurrected comedy, its laughter preserved for another century. Shelving, it feels like sending a child to Agra, pride and terror entwined. The label winks up, Menander. Survivor of dust and dull minds, ink-stained and triumphant, you stretch cramped shoulders. One battle won until tomorrow's war against mildew in the astrology section. A breeze sneaks in carrying salt and seaweed from the harbor. Menander's donkey brays in agreement, its joke now airborne, lost to Alexandria's hungry streets. Your needle glints in lamplight, a bronze sliver poised above Aristotle's water-stained margins. Acacia sap simmers nearby, its honeyed stench clinging to your linen wrap. You've dodged this scroll for weeks, but head librarian Amasis, threats finally outweigh your dread. The first tier mocks you, a jagged canyon splitting logic from ethics. Historians still argue whether moisture warped this page during a storm, or some heartbroken scholar cried over metaphysics. You thread flax through the needles, 3 attempts before success. Alexandria's humidity swells the fibers, making them stubborn as stoics. Quirky truth. Persian nobles once demanded silk thread for their scrolls, paid librarians in perfumed candles. You eye your coarse linen. Philosophers apparently rate lower than love poems. The needle bites papyrus, pulling the gash shut stitch by stitch. Problem arises at suture 4, the sap's too clotted to seal. You curse Ptolemy VII's cheap sourcing, then spit on the gum pot. Disgusting, sure, effective. Ask any papyrus surgeon. Enzymes in your saliva revive the resin's grip, science masquerading as barbarism. Mainstream fact intrudes. Acacia repairs outlasted empires. Modern conservators still replicate this sticky technique. Your current batch came from Memphis, minus the traditional camel's urine preservative. Small mercies. A debate unfolds in your prickled fingers, to fix the water's tea-colored bloom, or let it linger like a wine stain on wisdom. Each dab of sap risks erasing Aristotle's accidental history. You compromise, tacking the edges while leaving the old spill's shadow untouched. Night bugs assist. Silverfish carcasses crunch underfoot as you pivot. Moonlight reveals the scroll's hidden map of damage, 5 more rips near virtue. Your needle hand cramps. You switch to left-handed stabbing. Results look drunken, but structural integrity beats aesthetics. Amasis, voice booms from the philosophy wing. Finish by third watch, or lose dessert rations. You mimic his nasally tone into the scroll. Blah blah intellectual property. Blah blah Epicurean deadlines. The Aristotle bust witnesses your treason, but keeps marble lips sealed. Final challenge. A corner's chewed by generations of mice, their tiny teeth more discerning than most critics. You craft a papyrus patch from discarded tax records. Poetic justice, bureaucratic waste, mending classical genius. The sap sets slowly, giving you seconds to reposition shaky craftsmanship. Midnight oil burns low when you cinch the last knot. Your scar-stitched Aristotle resembles a battlefield survivor, ugly but upright. Historians will cluck over your crude repairs, but future scholars might grasp the truth. Survival trumps elegance in libraries and life. Dawn's first rooster crow rattles jar shelves. You wipe sap-streaked cheeks, realizing too late the resins glued your hair to a Heraclitus quote. Sacrifices must be made, though you'll never live down explaining this to the bath attendants. Your scalp protests as you peel hair from Heraclitus, diatribe each strand, snapping like overused harp strings. Dawn's light creeps into the storage vault, exposing amphorae ranked like clay soldiers. Their bellies hold 12 play scripts by Euripides. Or was it 13 before the flood? You press fingers to temples, reconstructing yesterday's inventory through sheer willpower. Amasi's new labeling system mocks your fatigue. Persian trade routes shares shelf space with Euripides' tragedies. Historians still debate whether Ptolemaic librarians shelved by author theme or pure whimsy. Your nail etches temporary markers in wax, knowing full well morning's heat will melt logic pools. Quiet truth. Last month's jar inspection revealed a mummified gecko clutching Sappho's lost stanza. You slide that amphora behind Pythagoras' geometry proofs, safer, hidden from poetry-obsessed senators. Papyrus tags flutter as you work, ghostly fingers plucking at your sleeves. Memory fails at jar 47. Does Athenian naval codes go beside Xenophon's memoirs or Aristotle's marine biology notes? You improvise, burying military secrets between fishing poems. A scholar's tantrum tomorrow beats Amasi's wrath tonight. Your chipped thumbnail traces grooves in the clay, half hoping to find cheat marks from predecessors. Mainstream fact intrudes. 3 key libraries used this jar system: Alexandria, Pergamum, and the vanished House of Wisdom. You count amphorae by touch, each gritty surface whispering of Nile-fed workshops. Double-check Euripides' seal. Those forged Medea sequels nearly caused a riot last summer. The real game begins at sunrise, scholars descending like vultures. You practice sweet lies, Sappho's works. Alas, we've only reliable fragments since that tragic shipwreck. Never mention the gecko's scroll cradle, your sandal scuffs, a suspicious stain, dried pomegranate juice, or apology blood from last month's misplacement. Wax tablet abandoned, you resort to knotted cords for tracking loans, 3 knots for Aristophanes, 7 for Thucydides. Someone's snickering rings from philosophy, jars, apprentice Ketham hiding skepticism tracts. She'll learn. Mid-morning delivers its promised chaos. A Roman historian demands that scroll about Egyptian queens bathing in ass's milk. You guide him to agricultural treatises, keeping Cleopatra's actual beauty regimen safe behind false walls. Amasis nods approval, then trips over your misplaced Plato amphora. By dusk, 14 scrolls sit wrongly shelved. You scatter breadcrumbs for tomorrow's self, sprinkling ochre dust on problem jars. Let future historians ponder those colored speckles, your survival tactic masquerading as accidental art. Moonrise finds you slumped against Sappho's vault sticky, with resin reeking of failure. But somewhere in the gloom, Euripides and trade routes sleep safely side by side. For now, your knuckles brush Cicero's scroll as night watch begins, its wax seal still warm from forbidden hands. 3 shelves down, a sharp SHH slices air like a reed knife. You freeze, ear cocked toward echoing hisses. Roman sandals crunch gravel outside, those hobnailed soles spelling trouble. Your fingers dart through pigeonholes, burying Cicero between cattle breeding manuals. History's greatest speeches, now snuggled with advice on goat udders. Bureaucracy's perfect camouflage. A junior librarian's shadow crosses lamplight, his panicked eyes wide as Athenian coins. You flick wrist twice, code for start coughing fit. He obliges, hacking like a Nubian smoke eater while you reposition the Plato jar. Fun fact, Caesar's fire never touched the main stacks. Those flames only licked storage warehouses. But try convincing visiting centurions of that distinction. Their helmets gleam too brightly to tolerate nuance. The oak doors groan open. Moonlight outlines a senior scribe trailed by armor. Your tongue finds the gap where yesterday's fig pit chipped a tooth. Sweet lies ferment behind it. Unrestricted section demands the legionnaire voice, echoing off Ptolemy's star maps. You gesture toward erotic poetry shelves, strategically placed beside Hippocrates' genital infection remedies. Let him flip those pages single-handed. Mean whisper from Gallery 2. 3 sharp clicks signal that Archimedes' artillery diagrams are safely underwater. Always claim rare texts float in sealed cisterns before Senate inspections. Good thing Romans hate damp scrolls. Your sandal traces the floor's warning groove, a scratch-marked perimeter beyond which visitors trigger the tile tilt. Step here, loose cobblestones clatter like Persian war drums. Tonight's intruders stomp oblivious, too busy squinting at Sappho's less saucy verses. Quirky truth: librarians once hid Aristotle's banned dialogues inside mummy wrappings. X-ray scans in 1997 proved it. 3 layers of linen cocooning on constitutional revolutions. You mimic their trick, wrapping Cicero in yesterday's laundry lists. The centurion leans close, garlic breath fogging your cheek. No seditious texts, each word a measured threat. You blink innocently, pointing to Demosthenes' speeches. Plenty of treason here, but it's pro-Macedonian, outdated, I'm afraid. His gauntlet slams the desk, rattling ink pots. You silently thank yesterday's self for securing them with date syrup. Sticky situations demand stickier solutions. Across the hall, Kedem accidentally knocks over Hesiod's jar. The crash sends scholars scattering like roaches. Perfect cover to shuffle Cicero deeper into livestock manuals who'd suspect bovine midwifery tips hide critiques of tyranny. Debate fodder. Historians still argue whether library bans targeted specific ideas or just materials upsetting VIPs. Tonight's answer: both. Senators' tantrums dictate shelf placements more than any grand philosophy. The scribe lingers, quill poised to record confiscated titles. You slide him a pre-censored list, 4 harmless geometry scrolls, plus that dreadful epic about Antiochus, hairdresser. Let Rome burn metaphorical trash instead of real wisdom. Armor clanks toward the exit, their loot clattering like a child's toys. You count to 17, the exact seconds needed for footsteps to fade beyond earshot. 2 more, all clear, hisses ripple through darkness. Cicero emerges unharmed, his wax seal intact. You tuck him between pig veterinary scrolls this time. Double bluffing works best with persistent snoops. Catam offers a victory date, its sweetness almost drowning the adrenaline rot on your tongue. Midnight oil burns low as you rebraid the warning net. New hiscodes get tested. 1 long rasp for poetry enthusiasts, 3 staccato spits for tax auditors. Survival here demands constant reinvention, both of shelves and selves. Dawn finds Cicero resting beneath advice on birthing lame calves. Your raw thumbnail traces his hidden title. Let future historians wonder why Republican ideals hid behind livestock trivia. Some answers taste better aged. Sunlight slants through high windows, your stained fingers crushing crimson beetles into paste. Each pop releases dye older than Rome itself. Tyrian royalties, favorite shade now staining library receipts. The mortar smells like iron and forgotten battlefields. A junior apprentice gags at the stench, his sandals scraping backward. Relax, you smirk. Last week's eel gutting smelled worse. Historically accurate, maybe. Effective for clearing chatty trainees. Absolutely. Papyrus fragments float in vinegar baths nearby palimpsests waiting for new words. You stir the ink with an ibis bone, its curve perfect for avoiding clumps. One slip and Seneca's love letters become abstract art. Mainstream fact: legal documents always used blackest charcoal ink. Errors meant scraping sheepskin with pumice. Not that you'd know anything about accidentally botching tax records for certain philosophers. Linen strips soak up excess dye, draped like sacrificial offerings across drying racks. Your sleeve brushes a wet batch, instantly earning tomorrow's laundry duty. Pro tip: beet juice hides crimson stains. Unless Kedham narks to the dye master again. The recipe demands honey for viscosity, but you sneak in fig syrup instead. Sweeter smell, fewer ants. Debate rages among scribes. Sticky inks preserve texts, or just attract more silverfish. Everyone's wrong. It's about which pests you prefer. Quirky tidbit: some Alexandrian inks contained lead researchers found traces in 2013 love poems. Coincidence that Cleopatra's missives caused headaches. You eye the suspiciously sweet batch meant for senators' correspondence. Oops. A crash echoes from the scriptorium, another overturned ink pot. You hiss the new distress code. 3 tongue clicks. Responding silence means it's just clumsy Callimachus again. His reparations: tomorrow's beetle-crushing shift. Midday heat thickens the air, beeswax melting in storage jars. You rescue a dripping chunk, remolding it into a tiny sphinx. It guards your workstation now, until lunch melts its paws off. Charcoal dust coats your throat, each cough speckling papyrus with unintended ellipses. Historians still argue whether ancient scribes used punctuation or just inhaled too many fumes. Today's evidence supports both theories. The head scribe inspects your batch, droplets splashing his pristine robe. His grimace sparks joy. Adequate, he grunts. Highest praise since the great papyrus flood of 23. You pocket a corked vial, unofficial bonus for overtime. Midnight's project: rewriting grocery lists with imperial flourish. Let the market vendor marvel at Octavian's edict on olive prices. Sunset finds your hands permanently stained, crime scene spirals on each fingertip. Kedham tosses a lemon wedge, its acid futile against centuries-old techniques. Wear gloves tomorrow, she mocks, and rob patrons of my artisanal fingerprints. You blow on Herodotus, fresh marginalia, steam curling like oracle smoke. The library breathes ink and altered histories. Tonight, your alchemy complete. Sunset stains your fingertips crimson. Time now for shadow theft. Pythagoras: geometry scrolls bake near west windows, their diagrams fading like tide-washed footprints. You're the sunbeam bounty hunter. Alexandria's hypocaust system hums beneath marble floors, slaves stoking fires to control humidity. Mainstream fact: Romans later copied this badly. You adjust ventilation slats with a hooked pole, redirecting stale air upward. 3 apprentices mimic your movements, hissing when shadows touch forbidden zones. Thoth's beak, one yelps as light grazes Aristotle's ethics treatise. You spin linen sash whipping like a battle standard. Morning's careful choreography unravels. The summer solstice stretches daylight, an enemy with golden spears. Historians still argue whether shelf angles were intentional or just architects hang over math. You vote sabotage, quirky tidbit. Infrared scans revealed erased poems beneath Archimedes, formulas, ghost words in octopus ink. You squint at today's target scroll. Does Pythagoras hide love verses under his triangles? Bare feet slap stone as you reposition codices, each leather cover heavier than a guilty conscience. Your favorite trick, propping wax tablets as sun shields. Temporary fixes for eternity's problem. An apprentice hesitates, his shadow bisecting Plato's Republic. Move or become censorship incarnate. He leaps like a startled ibis. Management material. You unroll Pythagoras, masterwork, beta 2 plus gamma 2 equals delta 2 shimmering in charcoal. Faded numbers haunt the margins, crumbling where some scholar doodled birds. Co-workers or kitchen graffiti. The great debate continues. Linen strips dangle from ceiling hooks, ancient sundial rigging, their zigzag, shadows worn when light creeps too close. You've added donkey teeth marks for extra urgency. Someone's stacked lyric poetry in the danger zone, Sappho's verses crisping like sacrificial bread. Whose funeral? You bark. Guilty glances pinpoint the new lyricist from Cyrene. His punishment. Moonlit shadow charts. Sunset still bleeds through one high window, stubborn as a grammarian's red ink. You recruit the siege engine crew. Their mirrored shield reflects light onto apologies, redirects light onto harbor pigeons instead. Teamwork achieved. Pythagoras' scroll now rests in owl light, safe until dawn. His triangles whisper ratios you'll never understand. But those smudged numbers, almost like someone calculated your exact footsteps. Moisture checks come next. Clay tablets record humidity near each shelf. Your nail etches daily tallies. One crackles audibly, the dread croak of oversaturation. You dash chased by evaporating dignity to rescue Hipparchus. Star maps, they curl like dying leaves. 3 blotters applied, 4 prayers muttered, 1 cinnamon sachet deployed as odor camouflage. Moonrise finds you sprawled beneath Cleopatra VII's first edict, its cursive loops mocking your exhaustion. Stars mirror the archive's layout through ceiling grates. Or is that the wine kicking in? Final rounds demand bare hand shelf sweeps, palm tests for residual warmth. Sunburnt papyrus crackles a specific dirge. You've memorized every note. Dawn's first gulls screech as you exit, another civilization's memory preserved through shadow boxing. Pythagoras' theorems float behind your eyelids, intercut with visions of the idiot who left Horus in the solar crosshairs. Sleep comes with specifications. Blackout curtains, reed pillows, and the nagging certainty You forgot Euripides' tragedies near that south-facing niche. Too late now. The Nile sings louder than scrolls. Moonlight slicks the inspection path, your bare soles counting steps through muscle memory. 1. Check the spice storage, alcove's eastern corner. 4. Run thumb along Sappho's shelf joint, the routines etched deeper than hieroglyphs in royal tombs. Humidity clings like a sweaty scholar's handshake. You pause at step 17, kneeling to sniff the medical scrolls. Hippocrates' fever cures rest here, alongside mystery dampness seeping up from below. Mainstream fact. Library architects mixed crushed oyster shells into mortar, a porous barrier against Nile floods. You chip a thumbnail sample, tonight's moisture laughs at their ancient hubris. Green menace at Sector 12. Hisses an apprentice. You pivot linen wrap, snagging on Cleopatra's tax records. The mold patch glows faintly bioluminescent, a fungal trick unseen since last flood season. Quirky tidbit. Scholars found 3rd century curse tablets hidden in walls, pleased to Thoth for less soggy papyrus. You mutter your own pagan bargain, dry scrolls for extra fig rations. Step 23 demands tongue tests. Disgusting effective. Your taper hair brush flicks moisture from Hypatia's astronomy charts. The stone tastes like despair and pigeon droppings. Historians still argue whether Alexandria's storerooms held 600,000 scrolls, or just really convincing inventory lists. You've counted 82,411, but who's tallying? Crouching reveals the true villain, a leaky amphora of ibis blood. Ritual ink or librarian's breakfast? The answer defines your cleanup strategy. You vote breakfast, sparing the offender's dignity. Emergency protocol. Blotting sheets from cypress flax, the fluffy ones that don't scratch ink. 3 layers under Hippocrates' soggy corner, each like tucking a child against storms. Your elbow knocks over a census ledger. 27 papyrus sheets avalanche all listing. Cleopatra, daughter of Ptah, in looping script. Pharaohs recycled names like laundry, eternal branding issues. Step 31, finger combing air vents. Dust bunnies flee your approach. One coughs up a mummified gecko wearing a hemp loincloth. Workplace hazards lean toward the surreal at midnight. An apprentice presents moss samples on a wax tablet. From Euripides' shelf, he declares, then sneezes spores across Galen's wound diagrams. You assign him corpse embalming duty. Team building, the final step, always stings, checking your own logbook for errors. Smudged numbers glare like accusers. Did you really record 0 pests last Tuesday? The Silverfish army disagrees. Dawn leaks through ceiling grates as you seal Hippocrates' alcove. Clay tablet tallies, now red moisture. CONTAINED, in hasty, cuneiform your version of epic poetry. The head librarian inspects your work, sniffing honey traps and wrinkled scroll ends. His grunt translates to adequate. Alexandria's knowledge survives another sunrise, even if your sandals squelch ominously. Flower beetles march across your desk, tiny conquerors, drawn by midnight fig crumbs. You grant them temporary amnesty. Everyone deserves snacks after defeating entropy's armies. Sleep creeps in with mold-scented dreams. Somewhere, Hippocrates applauds your blotting technique. Somewhere else, Cleopatra VII mutters about damp tax records. The library breathes, and you've become its lung. Moonlight stains training tablets blue your calloused hands. Demonstrate the first signal. Thumb curls inward, pinky jabs air. Fetch flows like a river's cursive. Apprentices mirror you, their fingers trembling, as if spelling out apologies. Cleopatra's tax records still reek from yesterday's mold battle. You point at a scroll piled with Athenian recipes. Palm slaps your own forehead. The universal sign for disaster. Mainstream fact: Ptolemaic libraries used hand codes since 200 BCE. Histories: first librarians feared gossipy echoes. Your newest recruit misreads. Urgent, flapping hands like a caffeinated ibis. Not danger, you groan. His flailing nearly upends Seneca's ethics treatise. Dust motes swirl angry ghosts of poor decisions. Historians still argue whether ancient librarians developed full sign languages or just really aggressive charades. Quirky tidbit: a 1923 dig found terracotta fingers mid-gesture. Archaeologists spent decades decoding their silent messages. You demonstrate the trickiest signal, 2 fingers circling a raised knee. It means Egyptian king's poetry handle with extreme skepticism. The recruit botches it, curling toes instead. Now he's requesting pickled crocodile uterus from storage. The gag gift arrives, reeking of vinegar and regret. Your reward system: date paste for correct signals, lime juice droplets for failures. The Silverfish squad grows. One apprentice licks a medical scroll, hoping its bitterness counts as punishment. Midlisten, a senior hisses the danger signal. Senators' aides prowl nearby, their sandals slapping like hungry pelicans. You freeze mid-gesture, thumb hooked behind an ear. That's not an official sign. The recruit whisper yells. You improvise. Tugging your earlobe means hide the Aristophanes comedies. He nods gravely, then shelves Plato's Republic beside bread recipes. Emergency rectification requires 6 signals in rapid fire. Pinky jab, elbow tap, no swipe. Euripides narrowly avoids becoming dessert literature. The recruit mimes confusion by flaring nostrils. You respond with the classic facepalm, not in the manual, but universally understood. Dusk brings review sessions. Wax tablets display failed gestures, a finger puppet tragedy of errors. One drawing suggests you requested scrolls wrapped in live scorpions. Creative, yet concerning. Hunger undermines progress. Stomach growls sync with misused signals. The recruit gestures food, a thumb to lips. You counter with focus, tapping his temple. He pantomimes starvation, collapsing dramatically onto Galen's anatomy diagrams. Night's final test: signal-only scroll retrieval. Pythagorean treatise, green tags, shelf 7. The recruit squints executing a passable 7 with knuckle cracks. Victory sweets taste like figs and lowered standards. As lamps dim, you catch him practicing. Fingers dance shadow puppet shows against the wall, a lion chasing Socrates. Tomorrow's problem. For now, let history's keepers dream in silent theater. Moonlight still clings to your sandals as you swap shadow puppet duty for worse crimes, the forgery patrol. Your weapon, a palm-sized magnifying lens, glass polished by some poor soul who ground sandstone into dust. Tonight's first suspect, a supposed Aristotle scroll praising Roman aqueducts, built centuries after his death. You flatten the papyrus, fingers tracing suspiciously smooth edges. Real Alexandrian scrolls fray like overcooked celery. The ink glistens too black, no vinegar tang from fermented oak galls. Mainstream fact, library authenticators mixed crushed pearls into verification ink, their shimmer unmatched by common soot and wax fakes. This imposter's letters bleed like mourner's coal. 3 signs of guilt, looping sigmas shaped like lovers' knots, paragraph breaks at odd syllables, and dead giveaway, the scribe signed Aristoxenus in the corner. A music theorist moonlighting as a philosopher. Nice try. Historians still argue whether half our lost texts are deliberate forgeries, planted to discredit rivals, or hide uncomfortable truths. You scrape a fingernail across dubious wisdom. True knowledge resides in. The sentence ends mid-scroll. Classic trick. Leave 'em craving the resolution they'll never get. Quirky tidbit. Last month's bust included a fake heron scroll explaining pyramid construction via sound wave levitation. Clever. If the Babylonians had invented subwoofers, tonight's prize wins points for subtlety. The counterfeit Aristotle almost convinces, until page 3's rant about the democratic virtues of fig-based governance. Your magnifier catches a fiber mismatch, linen threads in papyrus. Amateur hour. Library weavers used Nile reeds exclusively, their signature crunch under pressure. You roll the evidence tight, hesitate. That fig argument's weirdly persuasive. Democracy would improve if politicians sticky-fingered breakfasts instead of purses. The scroll disappears into your sleeve, crime and curiosity coiled together. Guilt gnaws until you spot the next offender. A Sappho poem so anachronistic it rhymes. Pre-Incara poets avoiding rhyme like plague-ridden rats. These lines clang. Love's furnace burns brighter than Hephaestus. Slapdash smithy fires. Slapdash. Since when does the goddess of lyric grace write like a drunk blacksmith? You chuck the scroll into the disposal, urn flames, swallowing bad poetry whole. Scholars will weep over cinders, blaming moisture damage. Let them. Dawn creeps in your lens, now fogged with exhaustion. Final check. A geometry text allegedly from Archytas. The diagrams click until triangle 7. Its hypotenuse curves like a smuggler's grin. You snap the scroll shut, too tired for Pythagoras' ghost to haunt you. The fake Aristotle burns slowest, its ash lingering in the air. That fig analogy sticks like reed gum. What if governance should be sticky sweet, rooted in shared hunger? Heresy or genius? You shake the thought loose. No room for rogue ideas in these sterile halls. But as you walk away, ink-stained and morally flexible, your sandal grinds something into the tiles. A surviving scrap from the Sappho forgery. One phrase pulses in the torchlight. Bend the rules, or they'll break you. The bustle of arriving day shifters drowns the nagging whisper. Mostly, your sleeve feels heavier now, the stolen scroll's weight bending toward tomorrow's private reading. Let historians debate authenticity. You've got a fig manifesto to dissect and possibly steal from. Moonlight stripes the lone tablets like prison bars. Each chalk mark a sentence for your insomnia. You squint at fourth shelf's records, Seneca's essays glaring back in white dust. 8 days overdue. The culprit's name hides beneath a smudge until your thumb reveals it. Oh joy, a senator's daughter. Tomorrow's headache arrives early. Real talk, Alexandria tracked borrowings via clay tokens long before library cards. This system's flaw, arrogant nobles treating scrolls like inherited heirlooms. You trace the overdue runes her family crest peeks through like a serpent's tongue. Historians still bicker whether overdue fines funded scroll repairs or the director's wine cellar. A quirky tidbit. Ever heard of the philosopher who loaned Ptolemy's sex manuals disguised as epic poetry? Neither has anyone else. The record mysteriously vanished. Tonight's transgression feels tamer until you flip the tablet, scribbled in the margin. Paid 4 drachmas to silence the shelf guard. Bribes now. Alexandria's rot spreads faster than ink blots. You pocket the damning clay evidence for tomorrow's silk-gloved shakedown. Imagining the confrontation, her pearl-drenched outrage, your carefully bored sighs. A misunderstanding. Surely we'd hate to misplace your father's tax audit scrolls. Masterstroke. The night deepens, your lamp oil thinning like patience. Another tablet glints. Archimedes' siege plans borrowed by a military engineer. Due yesterday. Standard stuff until you spot the return seal pressed into wax. A perfect mouse footprint. Rodent conspiracy or prank. Library cats demand raises. Moonlight fades as you rehearse threats. How to terrify a socialite without causing diplomatic collapse. Channel Cleopatra, negotiating with Rome, honeyed words, crocodile tear pauses. Your reflection in a water jug smirks back. Sleep deprivation's the real muse here. Dawn's first blush stains the tiles. You arrange evidence. Loan records, bribe notes, a fig stolen from yesterday's lunch. Breakfast of champions. Footsteps echo, silk slippers approach. Showtime. Lady Tertia. Your bow drips mock reverence. We've missed Seneca's wisdom terribly. Perhaps you mistook his essays for cosmetics manuals. Her blush rivals Phoenician dye. The dance begins denials pirouetting into hissed compromises. By sunrise, the scrolls return dusty but intact. Her donation of 6 new parchment sheets almost atones. Almost. You file the bribery tablet under future leverage, Alexandria's true currency. As clerks arrive, you melt into shadows, another crisis buried. The mouse-stamped scroll winks from its shelf. Some mysteries outlive due dates and thrive in the silent spaces between rules. Nile mud perfumes the pre-dawn air, that earthy wetness promising chaos. You lick cracked lips, salt from last night's panic sweats. Rope burns stripe your palms as teams hoist cedar shelves higher, 1 hand width per day, the director's orders since floodwatch began. Every Alexandrian knows the river's July tantrums, yet this year feels different. Workers wedge limestone blocks under platform legs, their chisels singing clink-clink like anxious crickets. You tighten a knot around Ptolemy's star maps, linen cords dyed with walnut to repel rot. Fun fact: librarians pioneered raised storage after the 93 BCE deluge drowned Euripides' lost plays. Shame about the mildew tragedies. Sandbag brigade, shouts the apprentice voice cracking mid-syllable. You toss him a smirk with the burlap sack. Inside, date pits and crushed pottery, cheap filler whispering, "We're doomed." The real defense hangs above, papyrus bundles slung like hammocks between pillars. Historians still argue whether these aerial nets saved texts or just gave mice aerial access. You pause at shelf 11. Its new elevation reveals a hidden carving. Antonia flooded here. 8 figs, regretted both. Classic 2nd century graffiti. Your knuckle traces the words, "Humans haven't changed much." Neither have the Nile carp nibbling dock ropes downstream. Rain drums the roof, a lazy preview. You rub crocodile bile on the lower shelves, stomach-churning stench meant to deter mold. Quirky tidbit: some scribes swore hippo fat worked better until it melted into philosophical papyri. Aristotle's Ethics reeked of rancid pond for decades. The new recruit approaches, holding a scroll labeled Flood Myths upside down. You flip it silently. Her sheepish grin mirrors your first-year blunder, that time you shelved Socrates under agriculture. Together, you wrap Ptolemaic tax records in oilcloth, the kingdom's greed preserved for eternity. Dampness seeps through your sandals. Childhood memories resurrect. The year lower library became an aquarium. You'd floated parchment boats in knee-deep muck until the head librarian tanned your hide with a wet scroll. Lesson learned: respect water's hunger. A crash echoes from philosophy wing. Seneca's essays take a tumble. You mutter curses even Stoics wouldn't forgive. The apprentice freezes mid-step, terrified of your wrath. Relax, you grunt. Epicurus probably wanted a swim. Dawn breaches, weak light, exposing the library's new topography. Texts hover like swamp birds on stilts. You triple-check the pulley ropes, and the backup ropes, and the secret third set no one acknowledges. Paranoia's the real, unsung hero here. Sniff test complete, cedar oil vapors still overpowering the Nile's musk. You count jars of uncut papyrus, 37. Not enough. Always not enough. Somewhere, a water clock drips mockery. The director materializes, silk robes suspiciously dry. Satisfactory, he declares before vanishing. You resist the urge to kick his echo. Instead, nibble a honeycake pilfered from the offerings basket. Sacrilege never tasted so caramel. Storm clouds bruise the horizon. Workers whisper of crocodiles swimming up the gutters last year, a claim nobody's disproven. You line inkwells along windowsills, crude flood gauges. Their reflections wobble in rising puddles by midday. The first leak erupts, a malevolent dribble above mathematics. You thrust a bronze bowl beneath it, Plato's Timaeus recast as percussion instrument. Drip, 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 metronome of impending disaster. Night falls early. Your cot's been moved to the restoration room, now islanded by motes of scrolls. Sleep comes fitfully, dreams of papyrus fish nibbling your toes. Somewhere beyond the rain, the Nile keeps laughing. The feast of Isis empties the library, its marble halls echoing like a plucked lyre. You kick off sandals, the director's ban on footwear, now irrelevant. Holiday incense hangs thick, myrrh-masking the usual musk of anxious scholars. Perfect conditions for rescuing rejects. You brush dust from the discard's alcove, a tomb for scrolls deemed unworthy. Brittle bindings snag your tunic. Third shelf yields treasure. Dioscorides, lesser-known rival, an unnamed botanist's flora of the Nile Delta. The title flakes under your thumb, its gilt, letters sacrificing vowels to time. Unrolling requires breath control too fast, and century-old petals escape. 5 layers peel back. 6, 7, pressed lotus blossoms glow moon pale, their veins fossilized in ochre ink. Historians still argue whether these illustrations aided study or just pleased some long-dead librarian's eyes. Your reed brush hesitates above a crumbled bloom. Preservation's dilemma. Stabilize the fragments or let them drift into memory. A sneeze looms, you clamp nostrils shut. One misfired breath could atomize Cleopatra's favorite lilies. Midnight oil lamps reveal the real prize, margin notes by some zealous annotator. Wrong. Scrawls consume entire paragraphs. This fool mistakes river mint for pennyroyal. Bonus discovery. Irritated doodles of a frowning owl. Quirky tidbit. Analysis suggests the critic used ink mixed with beet juice and flower nectar scented disapproval. You reinforce torn edges with papyrus patches, the botanical equivalent of sutures. Each mend resurrects a sentence, and the blue fig wasps prove the gods enjoy practical jokes. A chuckle escapes, then guilt. Who were you to judge this forgotten soul? Mouse nod sections force improvisation. Describe root system here. You scribble in the gap, your forgery disguised with period-accurate grammar. Future scholars will debate your additions. If anyone ever reads this, high-stakes fan fiction. Dried chrysanthemum pollen rains into your lap, golden specks dancing in lamplight. Sneaky preservation tactic. You lick a fingertip, catch 3 grains. They dissolve bittersweet, ancestral medicine, or accidental poison. Your tongue tingles for hours. The botanist's final entry chokes you. All specimens gathered during my daughter's first spring. No more pages follow. You check the jar's depth, just empty air where a family story should have grown. Sunrise stains the restoration table pink. You rebind the scroll with Tyrian purple thread, a royal color for history's benchwarmer. Somewhere, the real feast of Isis rages, drums, and drunken poets serenading barges. Here, a single sparrow splashes in your discarded wash basin, applauding with wet wing flaps. The heady danger of completion looms. Where to file this resurrected relic? Astronomy's too crowded, medicine's gatekeepers would scoff. Ah, agriculture wing. Let wheat scholars stumble upon floral poetry. You tuck it between crop yields and a scroll on donkey-drawn plows, the perfect camouflage. Departing, you scatter leftover petals across the clay floor. Let the morning shift, wonder, paranoid gardeners invading their precious library. Your back aches, your eyes burn, your name remains unrecorded. Standard Tuesday. Sunrise paints scholars' shadows long across the courtyard, their post-feast headaches visible in flinching squints. First supplicant arrives clutching a half-empty wine jug and ambitions, a denarius for Euripides Hippolytus, slurs a poet laureate's nephew. His breath reeks of festive excess for that suspicious, frankincense-laced wine. You palm the silver, smoothly gesturing toward the lesser tragedy's shelf. 14 crumpled plays enter your chiton's hidden pocket before noon. Mainstream fact. Elite Roman women allegedly bribed librarians for Euripides ripped from the gossip plays about powerful females. You've yet to meet these mythic matrons, just hungover men quoting mediocre verse. The afternoon brings an overeager philosopher. His coin purse clinks with Alexandrian click language, 12 coins, maybe 13. For Aristotle's forbidden dialogues, he demands. You blink innocently. Plato's restricted texts remain 2 shelves up, triple-coated. Aeschylus, military treatises. You offer, already guiding him toward tactical manuals. His disappointed huff stirs a papyrus tag, revealing your quill-drawn rat wearing a tiny toga. Quirky tidbit. Bored scribes often doodled rodent parliaments in margins. One scroll shows mice debating cheese tax laws. Twilight transforms petitioners' tactics. A lyricist slides over figs stuffed with honey and silver leaf. You nibble fruit, redirect her to Sappho's less inflammatory fragments. But I crave true passion, she protests. Try the gardening scrolls, you deadpan. Nothing hotter than properly grafted pomegranate trees. Her eye roll could power a millstone. Secret ledger updates haunt your break. 3 coins for roof repairs, 5 for mouseproof jars, 2 for that sweet Hittite exoskeleton wax. Historians still argue whether restricted sections protected knowledge or just librarians' side hustles. The truth, as always, wears too many robes to identify. Final customers, a senator's scribe, velvet pouch promising gold. The Euclid prototypes, he breathes. Your sandal, accidentally, knocks over an amphora. Its avalanche of tax records buys escape time. Archimedes' lever principles suggest run. You murmur, already vanishing into the geography wing. Chuckling, you pat the safest stash spot. Euripides, masterpieces shelved between sewer diagrams, and a scroll on pig fattening. Let scholars dissect drainage blueprints. They'll assume it's a metaphor. Lamplight reveals your haul. 17 coins and a lemon tart. The tart's suspiciously geometric. Did a Pythagoras fan poison it? You take the cautious path, tossing crumbs to courtyard doves. Their approving coos echo as you oil lock the vault. 23 steps to the staff exit. 19, 12, heartbeat sinking with sundial shadows. Your sandal grinds something metallic, a bronze Euripides figurine, discarded bribe from last Saturnalia. Its smirking face knows your game. You drop it down a well, let the groundwater judge. Starlight guides you home, past bakeries, frosting honey cakes for tomorrow's scholars. Their craving for forbidden texts will resume at dawn. Right after the indigestion fades, you smile, pocket jingling with the sound of wisdom, selectively shared. The Memphis quills arrive, wrapped in suspiciously soft gazelle hide, their tips bristling like offended cats. You snap one against your palm. It makes a sound like a disappointed scribe tutting. 3 layers of memo tablets buried the shipment notice. Superior flexibility guaranteed. In ink that smells like managerial lies. Night oil lamps reveal the truth. These nibs could puncture camel hide. Mainstream fact. Alexandrian scribes paid premium wages for delta reads, their natural hollow cores perfect for ink flow. These Memphis atrocities, more weapon than writing tool. Gift from the Mouse King himself, you mutter shaving bristles with an obsidian blade. Historians still argue whether mouse fur quill meant actual rodent pelts or just merchants' creative marketing. The answer floats in your palm, gray filaments refusing to taper. Midnight finds you bartering with a janitor's whetstone. Lend me the grittiest side, you plead, offering yesterday's unholy communion, bread as collateral. His snort says everything, the bread's still harder than your quills. Scritch, scratch, scritch, scratch. 3 hours vanish reshaping nibs. Quirky tidbit. Temple mice were considered Thoth's sacred scribes. Their droppings allegedly cured writer's cramp. You'd kill for that miracle now. Your wrist screams like a stepped-on lyre. Dozing against a papyrus bale, you dream of cooperative rodents weaving quills from their own fur. The head mouse quotes Aesop. Softness defeats rigidity. You wake clutching a half-carved nib, its edge finally yielding. testing phase begins disastrously. The first stroke tears through Ptolemy's star catalogue, a constellation now named Ruinous Rip. Panicked, you swipe honey from a mummy-wrapping station. 2 parts nectar, 1 part Nile water. The ancient cushioning trick works, mostly. Lampwick dawn reveals your crime. Ink splatters mimic Orion's belt across 6 maps. Quick thinking relabel them celestial navigation guides. That cartographer died centuries ago. He'll never know. Final test, transcribing Sappho's fragments. The quill hesitates, then flows like gossip through a marketplace. Each curving alpha and saucy omega emerges flawless. You've done it, turned weapons into whispers, stashing your 19 salvaged quills behind Aristotle's meteorology. The remaining 87 rejects. The Nile, glittering through the window, suggests a solution. 2 hours later, Memphis's superior quills bob toward the Mediterranean, an ironic armada of failure. As noon bells ring, you ink your first pristine footnote. The letters breathe, alive in ways ink hasn't achieved since Thoth invented hieroglyphs. A visiting scholar pauses, squinting at your work. New quill, old techniques. You lie smearing charcoal across your blisters. Let Memphis wonder why their exports sink mysteriously at sea. You've got poetry to transcribe, and 17 more quills to break in gently. Nile breezes turn feverish, carrying the wet dog stink of approaching storms. Your nose wrinkles at Pharaoh's neglected weather vanes, bronze ibises that creak westward. Mainstream fact, Roman engineers installed those vanes centuries ago, their iron mechanisms already rusting faster than Alexandrian alliances. You kneel before clay jars, their gaping mouths threatening to swallow precious texts whole. Beeswax bricks emit a sticky sweet musk, like honey left in a sun-baked tomb. Pro tip, mix it with olive dregs for better adhesion, and pray the recipe carved into shelf 14b isn't another scribe's prank. Historians still argue whether library wax included lotus pollen, alleged to repel silverfish. You toss in a petal anyway, its purple crunch, a rebellion against consensus. Double boiler hisses, the concoction bubbles like Cleopatra's bath oils. Sealant duty again. Your apprentice eyes the oozing ladle with horror. Shouldn't we, I don't know, invent something? You smack their wrist before they touch the wax. Innovation drowned with the Pharos lighthouse. Tonight, we honor tradition and mild burns. Palm blisters from yesterday's quill sharpening duel, with Memphis steel pulse in agreement. Each jar lid gets 3 clockwise swirls, Thoth's sacred number. Quirky tidbit, crocodile fat once served as waterproofing, until someone noticed scrolls smelling like a drunk hippo. Drafts rattle papyrus jackets, urging haste. Your brush flicks wax across amphora seams, creating amber armor. One misshapen glob oozes over Plato's ethics treatise. Call it interpretive preservation, you mutter, labeling the jar special edition. Midnight brings reinforcements. The dye master's twin daughters hauling backup wax. Their giggles die upon seeing Shelf 12's condition. We're sealing knowledge, not pickling beats. The elder snaps, dipping fingers too deep in molten gold. You rescue her with a cedar plank, its surface still scarred from last summer's moth uprising. 3-second rule applies. She glares, sucking wax from her thumbnail, tastes L-I-K-E Chinese letter, S cough syrup. Dawn leaks through cracks, your crew slumped like melted candles. 300 jars glisten, their wax seals mimicking miniature battlements. One cracks audibly, prompting groans. Apologies, mumbles the linen mender, her third accident tonight. You remelt the failure, adding stolen cinnamon for strength. The scent triggers memories, childhood storms, your mother sealing shutters with fig resin. Would she approve of this scaled-up insanity? Unclear, but her ghost definitely wants you to eat more lentils. Final inspection reveals 32 perfect seals, 87 passable ones, and an abomination resembling a winking sphinx. Artistic license, you declare, bribing the cataloger with mint tea. Rain drums the roof as you scrub wax from eyelashes. Somewhere beneath your feet, the Memphis quills sleep dry and useless. Let their smug suppliers drown. You've armored wisdom against chaos once more. The head librarian's sandals squelch in disapproving gaze, sweeping the sealed vault. Adequate, he grunts, which translates to "you've saved our skins again." You collapse onto a papyrus sack, hands glittering with golden flakes. Tomorrow, inventory the storm's damage. Tonight, let the rain sing lullabies to jarred-up knowledge, each waxed seal humming back in drowsy defiance. Candle wax pools around your knuckles, hardening into a makeshift thimble. The storm's aftermath hums through cracks in the ceiling, dripping syncopated rhythms onto borrowed parchment. You squint at Plato's Republic, its margins crawling with innocuous-looking numerals. Mainstream fact: Alexandrian librarians used number codes for banned texts. 14320, translating to Delta Eta Mu Omicron Kappa Rho Alpha Tau Oda Alpha. Democracy's forbidden whisper. Your stylus hovers over today's puzzle, Aristotle's Politics, disguised as a grain ledger. Page 42, column 7. You mutter, translating Attic Greek numerals with a smuggled key. Quirky tidbit: some scholars swear recipe scrolls contained political manifestos, boiled lamb, actually meaning overthrow tyrants. You've yet to find revolutionary instructions for baklava. Historians still argue whether these ciphers protected knowledge or librarians' necks. Your throbbing temple votes for self-preservation. The cipher key burns against your thigh, scratched onto a donkey's discarded tooth. Burn after using. Applies poorly to calcium. A moth dive bombs the flame, its crispy wings scattering across Sophocles' tragedies. You flick the corpse into a censer, adding irony to the rosemary smoke. 3. Rapid knocks echo, the apprentices. All clear signal, time to decode Euripides' latest contraband. Fingerprints smudge charcoal columns as you cross-reference numbers. 1716 becomes pi omicron lambda epsilon mu omicron sigma, or 3221 morphs into letter 1F0 lambda eta theta epsilon iota alpha truth. The fragments coalesce into a sentence that could get you fed to temple crocodiles. Worth it, you whisper, tracing the revelation with a reed pen. Your sandal taps out codes against stone, Morse before Morse. The head librarian's cough freezes your heel mid-tap. He pretends to adjust his sash, buttons aligning in a numeric sequence only you recognize. Check shelf 8 after sunset. You nod, sweat blurring the cipher key's grooves. His retreating sandals whisper 12912, tau oda muita honor. Or maybe a grocery list. Even encrypted praise stays vague here. Dawn leaks through parchment-covered windows, your brain buzzing with decrypted heresies. The donkey tooth gets tucked under floorboard 7, its etchings memorized through fingertip braille. One mistake could turn this library into a pyre. But then again, so could breakfast. You dissolve the cipher scroll in a vinegar bath, its secrets swimming away like inky eels. The liquid splashes onto yesterday's wax seal, plume-shaped smears mocking your caution. Modern art, you declare to no one, tossing the evidence into an amphora labeled Tiberius, tax records. Scholars' laughter drifts from the lecture halls, oblivious to the cryptography happening 8 steps below. Your stomach growls in Doric, time to smuggle a date cake from the restricted stacks, and maybe reinterpret forbidden fruit along the way. Wicker bites your palms as you hoist the basket, its false bottom heavy with Ptolemy's siege diagrams. Mainstream fact: military scrolls traveled in olive-oiled reed containers, their stench discouraging hungry rodents. You pretend to adjust your veil, fingers brushing its linen weave for courage. Historians still argue whether these handoffs protected strategy or just gave generals plausible deniability. A legionary's shadow stretches across your path, his armor clinking like a drunkard's coin purse. You pause beside a date shipments to Memphis, sign actual dried fruit, concealing Thucydides' war tactics. Quirky tidbit: librarians coded battle plans as dessert recipes. Honeyed figs meant cavalry positions. Crushing one in your pocket releases sticky anxiety. The designated plinth feels colder than usual. You set down the basket, knuckles grazing its lead lining. 2 heartbeats pass before a scarred hand materializes, gloveless, to claim it. Your little finger twitches upward, contents intact. His thumb curls, payment deferred. Cinnamon-scented soldiers drift past, their laughter scalpel sharp. One pauses to admire your veil's embroidery or study its thread count, fine craftsmanship. He murmurs Latin vowels rounded like a blade's edge. You thank him in fractured Etruscan, a dead language for a dead drop. The basket vanishes, replaced by a clay token stamped with Medusa's sneer. Standard fee: 10 drachmas per silenced witness. You pocket it beside your emergency rosewater vial, perfume and bribery mingling into musk. A distant cough echoes, probably asthma, possibly a signal. Dust motes swirl where the general stood minutes prior. You count 19 breaths before moving. Alexandria's heartbeat measured in scroll rotations. Was that a footstep in the Hydra-themed alcove? Unlikely. The real dangers already riding north, strategic weak points memorized under yesterday's moon. Your sandal sole grinds papyrus fragments into the mosaic floor. Euripides' lost prologue, reduced to decorative grit. Restocking raisins, you announce to suspicious air, emerging with an empty basket and fuller coin purse. The veil itches like a live thing, woven from secrets and spider silk. Moonlight silvers the harbor as you exit, waves murmuring of Trojan horse blueprints sunk offshore. Tomorrow, inventorying spice shipments containing Xenophon's march coordinates. Tonight, scrubbing lead residue from your cuticles, hands raw from guarding ghosts. A gull's cry slices the salt breeze, mocking your half-denials. You hum a lullaby from Crete, island famous for labyrinth builders and liars. The token burns against your thigh, but so does curiosity. Generals' eyes might haunt hallways, yet librarians hold THE Chinese letter maps. Mission accomplished, if mission means surviving until next payroll. You melt into shadowed alleys, each step echoing the scroll handoff waltz. Home smells of fig jam and paranoia. Sleep comes in code. 4 blinks for safe, 3 for watched, 2 for dawn. You kneel before the brass brazier, its perforated lid patterned with Isis, wings, and crush lotus petals between thumb and forefinger. Mainstream fact: Alexandrian healers prescribed these blue blooms for melancholy, their fumes swirling through diagnosis scrolls like curative ghosts. The pestle feels heavier today. Your midnight poetry raids, leaving knuckles stiff. Historians still argue whether these vapors cured headaches or simply intoxicated scholars into thinking they'd solved cosmological riddles. 3 drops of ibis fat sizzle on hot coals. Ancient air freshener meets modern migraine. The first tendril coils upward, a lazy serpent smelling of wetlands and whispered confessions. You catch a whiff, mentally noting how Archimedes' wine-stained notes need extra fumigation tomorrow. Scholars shuffle in robes dusted with yesterday's chalk equations. Their red-rimmed eyes follow smoke trails, pupils dilating like parchment, unfurling. One mutters Pythagorean theorems through numb lips, another traces Euclid's axioms in spilled salt. Your sandal taps the merciful ventilation lever, a hidden pulley redirecting fumes toward the astronomy quadrant. Quirky tidbit: junior librarians allegedly spiked mixtures with Nile crocodile dung, believed to boost mental endurance despite the bouquet. You inspect today's resin chunk, suspiciously textured but blessedly scented. The head scribe coughs pointedly, his beard flecked with hieratic script fragments. Time to perform. Clearing minds for Apollonian pursuits, you announce, tossing myrrh nuggets into the blaze. Amber smoke billows. Scholars inhale like drowning men finding air. A geometry tutor weeps quietly his tears, erasing an incorrect polygon calculation. You pocket a lotus bud. Tonight's poetic endeavors demand equal parts focus and recklessness. The miasma thickens, concealing your covert exhalations. Fumes can't distinguish between permitted thoughts and forbidden verse, a loophole you exploit daily. One historian sways, declaring he's deciphered Atlantis coordinates from Plato's grocery lists. His colleagues nod, too blissed out to debate. Your little finger twitches, testing the smoke's sting. Pre-dawn raids on restricted archives require steady hands, steadier than this. You palm a cooling coal, its burn a grounding counterpoint to swirling thoughts. The token from yesterday's handoff presses against your thigh, Medusa's gaze reduced to a dull ache. Again croaks the metaphysics dean, his tremor scattering papyrus scraps. You oblige, sprinkling chamomile over embers. Sweetness masks the ibis fat's musk, a olfactory sleight of hand, perfected through necessity. 2 apprentices lug in a cosmetic supplies crate actually containing Seneca's censored letters on emperor's bowel habits. Dusk approaches brazier glow competing with wall sconces. Scholars snore over half-written treatises, their dreams perhaps richer than wakefulness. You extinguish the coals with sand, each hiss a whispered lullaby. The lotus bud nestles in your sleeve, a smuggled sunrise for midnight's stolen hour. Stumbling into moonlit corridors, you press the bud to heated skin. Wait, is that cedar smoke? A shadow moves where the military scrolls sleep, too fluid for guards. Your pulse accelerates, fumes and fear concocting paranoid hypotheses. Probably just the new Carthaginian linguist. Probably. Home smells of stale incense and anticipation. You ignite the bud over a stolen candle, its smoke curling into Sappho's lost verses. Shadows dance like disputed adjectives, alive with possibilities language can't cage. Historians might dismiss your nightly ritual, but here, amidst rescued words, you rewrite Alexandria's heartbeat. Dawn finds you asleep, cheek pressed against a half-translated ode. The bud's ashes trace cryptic patterns on your desk, matching the library's ventilation schematics. Someone's added a new symbol, a snake swallowing its tail, where Plato's restricted section begins. Work bell tolls, residual smoke still clinging to your braids. You'll scrub it out tonight, after decrypting that serpentine hint. The scholars return blinking mole-like in clean air. One mentions dreamt solutions to Zeno's paradox. You smirk, knowing the real answer lies in lotus-laced rebellion. The brazier waits cold and judgmental. You drop in today's offering, rose petals and unresolved questions. Smoke rises, carrying tomorrow's secrets in its hazy embrace. The obsidian shard's edge drinks lamplight, hungry for papyrus fibers. Mainstream fact: this volcanic glass outcuts bronze. Egypt's smiths traded obsidian weight for weight, with silver. Your thumb tests the blade, translucent darkness biting skin before parchment. Yesterday's bandage peaks beneath your wrist strap, laundered linen now, stained with rust and regret. You align Pythagoras' geometry scroll, its frayed edge whispering secrets of irrational numbers. Historians still argue whether these blades served practical needs or satisfied priestly obsessions with ritual purity. The first stroke slices clean, separating decay from preserved thought. Obsidian doesn't tug like metal, it divorces fiber from fiber with silent finality. Quirky tidbit: veteran librarians allegedly licked fresh cuts, believing blood enzymes protected scrolls from mold. You press your nicked finger to a scrap, watching crimson bloom like forbidden ink. Somewhere, a scholar sneezes, their curse echoing through the allergy-inducing dust of erased philosophies. Mid-morning light slants across the workstation, exposing every wavering hand tremor. You switch to pebble trimming for Plato's dialogues, rounding dangerous corners that snag careless robes. A sliver of blade glints in your peripheral vision, ducking just before it kisses your earlobe. Blood dots the workspace. Your left pinky pays tribute to Socrates' rhetoric. The cut throbs in time with Alexandria's harbor bells, a metallic heartbeat beneath skin. Colleagues pretend not to notice their own bandages hidden beneath sleeve folds and dignity. Straighter than Aristotle's logic, mutters the quality inspector, her cedar ruler hovering millimeters above your latest cut. You resist pointing out that Aristotle contradicted himself on tides. Library policy forbids editorializing via blade work. The ruler taps disapproval. You shave another gossamer layer. Sunset turns obsidian to liquid shadow, edges blurring between tool and weapon. You fantasize about trimming Herodotus' more outlandish claims, but censorship smells worse than ibis fat. The last scroll of the day arrives, Homer's catalog of ships, battered by generations of impatient scholars. Your blade hesitates. This margin holds annotations by Callimachus himself. Sacrifice aesthetics for historical truth. The choice gnaws like mice in archival storage. You compromise, trimming only the outer fibers where ink surrendered to time. Night guards arrive, their spears clanking like disapproving critics. You sheath the obsidian in lambskin, its hunger temporarily sated. Blood speckles the worktable, an abstract ode to precision's cost. Tomorrow's shift will demand fresh band-aids and older manuscripts, the endless waltz of preservation and pain. Fumbling with your medicine pouch, you sprinkle dried yarrow on the deepest cut. Rumor claims Cleopatra's scribes used honey, but your stingy supervisor allocates sweets only for trapping insects. The bandage tightens, a personal papyrus scroll binding flesh and resolve. Moonlight reveals a fresh chip in the blade's curve, evidence of today's struggles. You bury the fragment beneath Sappho's poetry jar, an offering to gods of sharpness. As lamps gutter out, you trace the wound on your palm, mapping tomorrow's battlefield in raised scar tissue. Moonlight paints Euripides, jar in liquid silver, your cut still pulsing like a failed opening line. You peel back its wax seal, inhaling centuries of crushed reed and unresolved endings. The final scroll within holds no tragedies, just names in fading ochre. Mainstream fact: Hypatia's staff kept membership records alongside philosophy. Knowledge of keepers mattered as much as kept. Your thumbnail traces a column, Anchisenpepi, Neferir, Tamehodop women, who shelved empires between lunch breaks. One entry bleeds through Papyrus, Amenet, memorizer of 26. Historians still argue whether shelf guardians were honored specialists or punishment for chatty apprentices. Your oil lamp gutters, shadows resurrecting her ghost between cosmology and cheap wine amphory. Quirky tidbit: ancient scribes believed writing someone's name in scroll margins granted immortality, if the ink contained ground ibis bone. You mix lampblack with yesterday's yarrow tea, the closest you'll get to ceremonial materials. Dipping a mouse fur brush feels like committing heresy, or maybe just bad library science. The first stroke resembles a dying caterpillar. Your hand shakes more than during yesterday's obsidian mishaps. You channel Amenet's legend. They say she could recite every scroll location while blindfolded, and once headbutted a Roman tax assessor. Your own supervisor's name hovers tempting near the inkwell, but vengeance smells worse than mummified ibis. Midnight moisture warps the parchment, forcing you to stretch it taut with prayer and spare weights. 26 shelves you've memorized, except that cursed section behind the leaky cistern. Your predecessor's name emerges crooked but legible: Merira, daughter of floods. The floods part explains her paranoid knot tying during rainy seasons. A cockroach navigates your workspace, its antennae twitching at stolen ink. You consider including it as co-author Eternal Life for six-legged archivists. Instead, blow gently, sending it toward Plutarch's biographies. Let future scholars debate intentional symbolism. Dawn's first rays expose your amateur calligraphy. The M resembles a drunk centipede. No matter. Shelved beneath Euripides' lament for forgotten heroes, it'll outlast your pulse. Your bandaged hand leaves a rust-brown smudge, blood, and time collaborating on marginalia. The harbor bells toll, same as when Amenet cursed in Demotic, when Merira hid love poems in military maps. You seal the jar, ancestral ghosts crowding your shadow. Tomorrow's apprentice will inherit this shelf, and your name waits trembling in an inkwell. Syracusan engineers burst through cedar doors, their compasses gleaming like threat-laden constellations. You recognize their insignia: Archimedes, spiral-etched into bronze armbands. Mainstream fact: the library hoarded 7 authenticated scrolls by the great geometer, on floating bodies, being Rome's most requested and least returned. Their leader slams a palm on your desk, scattering reed pens. the siege engine schematics. Now, his Greek vowels twist like overcooked papyrus. You glance at the leaking roof corner yesterday's flood simulation, still dripping strategically, moisture crisis in the applied mathematics wing. You sigh, waving toward your apprentice's poorly faked puddle. Quirky tidbit. Syracuse's engineers once believed 3 sneezes during negotiations exposed liars. You suppress a nose tickle as they inspect the flood, their sandals smacking wet stone. This is donkey piss. One roars, accurately identifying your apprentice's rushed sabotage. Historians still argue whether Archimedes' legendary death ray was viable, or just PR to scare Roman ships. You channel that energy, sliding a blank scroll toward them. Even genius decays, you murmur, tapping, ink blots mimicking water damage. His leverage principles are dramatic pause, unfortunately dissolved. Their synchronized gasp pays your rent. They huddle like poetry-hating oracles, debating your authenticity through clenched teeth. Your sandal nudges a hollow floor tile, the real Archimedes' letters safe beneath. That morning's scramble involved wax-sealed duplicates. Heresy burns cleaner than treason. The lead engineer snatches the fake, sniffing for deception. You stare past his shoulder, memorizing his eyelid twitch for future caricatures. We'll send Rome's auditors. He hisses Apennine venom in every syllable. You smile tighter than a papyrus binding, knowing Cicero's cronies avoid soggy ruins. Their exit leaves a vacuum, stewed garlic, and threats lingering like bad perfume. The Chinese letter tablet glints on your desk, its surface fogged by your relieved exhale. Let them reinterpret condensation as divine disapproval. Your apprentice emerges trembling from behind Eratosthenes' geography scrolls, cheek imprinted with parallels of latitude. Next time, you mutter, sweating through yesterday's bandage. Practice your urine ratios. They nod, still eyeing the doorway where engineers cursed in Doric, Koine, and inventive Phoenician hybrids. You award yourself half a date from the emergency ration jar, sweetness undercut by adrenaline's aftertaste. Dusk filters through louvers, gilding shelves where Archimedes' actual works sleep beneath false panels. Tonight's wine will taste of temporary victory and borrowed time. Somewhere beyond the harbor, a warship's oars dip in rhythm with your heartbeat. Bronze caps cool your palm, each lamp's demise choreographed since Ptolemy III's reign. Mainstream fact: library lampwick trimmers earned double rations, fire prevention being cheaper than scroll replacement. You hum Phrygian scales, melody syncing with snuffer taps against heated metal. 3 lamps resist extinction, their clay rims glowing like stubborn oracle embers. Quirky tidbit: veteran librarians claimed flame whispers predicted tomorrow's humidity. You've yet to decode their crackling dialect. A practiced exhale silences the first, sunk in olive oil, still warm from scholars' debates. Drafts flutter Euripides. Loose edge, you weigh it down, with a philosopher's discarded button, cartonnage, recycling bins, overflow, tomorrow's problem for the linen weavers. Your sandal scuffs a mosaic crab, its pincers guarding Callimachus' shelf. Since the earthquake of '69, fingers graze Cleopatra's love letters, their wax seals intact despite Mark Antony's best gossip. Historians still argue whether librarians memorized restricted texts or if forbidden knowledge died with them. You choose mystery, letting darkness claim the contentious scrolls first. The astronomy wing exhales pine resin, its lamps doused early to protect celestial maps. Your elbow bumps Aristarchus, heliocentric diagram, scroll tube rolling like an affronted scholar. Apologies, you mumble, though his ghost likely prefers respectful silence over small talk. Insect carcasses crackle underfoot, honey linen traps emptied, but not yet replaced. A silverfish evades your heel, darting toward tomorrow's problem. You dispatch it with HIPPOCRATES, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter. The irony thick as unwatered wine. Scroll in hand, combat leaves papyrus edges frayed. Another repair for the dawn shift. Memphis-made oil clings to your tunic, scent announcing your approach before sandal slaps do. Apprentices freeze mid-loiter, their gossip evaporating like spilled mercury. Atlas shelf leaks. You lie smirking as they scramble toward non-existent crises. Efficiency through mischief, a library tenet since Eratosthenes' first prank. The final lamp crowns Homer's alcove, its flame gilding Achilles' rage into trembling shadow puppets. You linger watching Odysseus journey flicker into nothingness. Some claim oil vapors induce epic visions, but tonight's exhaustion offers only blurred afterimages. Snuffer meets bronze with a priest's finality, darkness suctioning air from your lungs. Scrolls sigh in unison, ink settling into nighttime hierarchies. Mouse paws scritch-scurry toward Euclid's geometry proofs, tonight's unauthorized study session commencing. Your toe maps the exit path, 18 steps memorized through wine-stained evenings. Mosaic Medusa winks as you pass, her curse less potent since you stole her left tessera. Moonlight leaks through a purposeful roof gap, Ptolemy's comet glowing like a smuggler's lantern. THE Chinese letter tablet weighs your satchel, its damp lie preserved for future bargaining. You pause beneath Orion's belt, constellations mirroring shelf, numbers in some cosmic catalog. A UNESKS unwinds vertebrae by vertebrae, each crack echoing through the great hall's vaulted ribs. City noise intrudes, drunken sailors harmonizing with distraught philosophers. Alexandria never sleeps, but her library pretends otherwise. Your shadow merges with Archimedes' hidden compartment, one final pat assuring his secrets remain weightless against Rome's hunger. Inner doors seal with a scribe's sigh barred against everything but time itself. Night guards nod, their spear tips etching lunar calculations onto guarded floors. You trade today's sweat-stained sash for cleaner linen, tomorrow's uniform already judging your life choices. The harbor's lullaby penetrates stone, waves whispering erased poems against salt-crusted walls. Somewhere beyond the mouse-gnawed stacks, a single lamp flickers back to life. Let the scholars blame drafts. You'll blame Heraclitus' ghost, forever obsessed with fire's mutable truth. Dawn's menace hangs 12 hours distant for now. Ink and echoes rule. Cobblestones bite your souls through worn sandals. Alexandria's streets still radiating yesterday's heat. A drunk scholar wobbles past, muttering Archimedes, principle to stray cats. You count doorways home, 37, since the library's western gate. Mainstream fact. Cleopatra VII once funded scroll acquisitions using pearl-dissolving vinegar stunts. Tonight, her ghost smells of apricots and impatience. Your rented room welcomes you with papyrus draft odors, failed poems plastered over leaky walls. Quirky tidbit. Landlords here rent by lumen. Windows facing the lighthouse cost triple. You chose darkness cheaper and kinder to aging scrolls. A moth-eaten blanket whispers across calluses, its threads imitating papyrus fibers under anxious fingers. Sleep teases, but doesn't commit, each blink replaying today's ink blots. Historians still argue whether librarians decoded Plato's Atlantis scroll or burned it during a wine-soaked panic. You imagine both versions. The truth probably involved bureaucratic indifference and a misplaced lunch order. Pigeons serenade the moon through roof gaps, their coos syncopating with your pulse. 3 checklists materialize behind closed eyelids. Mend Aristophanes, hide Seneca, bribe the wax supplier. A mosquito's whine near your ear becomes Demosthenes, ghost, practicing rhetoric against your sanity. First light ambushes you via a chink in the mortar dawn, arriving as a golden intruder. 13 scroll cases lean against your door, smuggled inland before Nile floods could warp them. You count seals, 2 Ptolemaic eagles, 11 Roman wolves. Someone's been creative with import taxes. Fingers trace the top scroll's linen wrap, still damp from some customs. Agent's hasty inspection. The lump beneath suggests hidden commentary, maybe Cato's lost letters, or just a scribe's half-eaten fig cake. Either way, it'll stink by noon. City noise escalates. Sandstone grinders versus donkey vendors versus pre-dawn philosophy club. You dunk your head in rainwater, emerging to see today's first catastrophe. A scroll case oozes green sludge, either advanced Egyptian glue or crocodile gut archival paste. Both smell like dead dreams. Thumbnails split papyrus bindings, your morning ritual since apprenticeship days. Someone's scrawled beta iota beta lambda iota omicron theta eta kappa eta in charcoal above Aristotle's Ethics, library tag, or love confession. You'll never ask. Mysteries outlive answers here. The first unfurled scroll reveals bad news. Water damage mimicking Sophocles, tear stains. Preservation starts with scraping mussel shell blade in your left hand, prayers in your right, a drop of sweat blurs, Antigone. You quickly blame the humidity. New arrivals always bring surprises. This one coughs up a mummified gecko. Its posture suggests scholarly focus, forever frozen mid-scroll inspection. You debate giving it a desk, or just add it to the pest deterrent jar. Footsteps echo in the corridor. Apprentices arrive smelling of sesame bread and poor decisions. Their widened eyes fix on the gecko. Initiation test, you deadpan. Name its species using Galen's taxonomy. Panicked whispers bloom, you've already forgotten the joke. Sunlight slants across the sorting table. 13 scrolls become 39 fragments. A Roman official's seal breaks under your knife. Wax crumbs scattering like spent ambitions. Inside, claims of Carthaginian irrigation tricks. You file it under agriculture and possible lies. The cycle resumes scrape, mend, hide, repeat. Somewhere a poet drowns in metaphors. A historian misplaces an era. A philosopher questions his fee. You dip a reed pen, its nib splitting like Alexandria's loyalties. Tomorrow's troubles already lurk in the inkwell. Cool night seeps through your window gaps now, the lamp's last flame bowing low. Scrolls exhale in unison with you, their frayed edges softening as shadows stitch the room. That oozing green sludge crystallized into something harmless, or at least quiet. Your cot creaks its usual protest, straw stuffing, whispering through linen cracks. You count 13 ceiling cracks instead of sheep each fissure, mapping a year of never-ending work. The gecko artifact watches from its jar, tiny claws pressed against glass, like a scholar begging for footnote mercy. Let it keep vigil. Demosthenes, mosquito rhetoric fades, drowned out by lazy waves beyond the harbor. Even Cleopatra's apricot-scented ghost grows bored, drifting toward theaters where poets still misquote her. Breathe deeper. 3 scrolls left unopened, their secrets postponed with a damp cloth and half-hearted promise. Calluses meet pillow, the moth-eaten blanket, now a cocoon. Somewhere, apprentices dream of mislabeled taxonomies and fig cake bribes. Let them. Tomorrow's ink blots will dry regardless. Sleep arrives as a smuggled scroll unannounced, slightly warped, smelling of river silt and unintended kindness. You unfurl it slow, no mussel shell blade tonight, no split papyrus, just the Nile's hum beneath your ribs, the lighthouse beam stroking your temple, 37 steps dissolving into tide rhythms. Alexandria persists, not in eagle-sealed cases or wolf-marked ledgers, but here in the dust, clinging to your lashes, the stillness between 2 scrolls pressed palm to palm, the breath before dawn's riot resumes. Drift deeper. The library endures even in dreams, even in you. Last sentence fades, voice softening to a breath. 38, 39, 40.